Hey everybody, Chris here. Just a quick note. This is part 2 of a 3-part series. So if you have not heard part 2, which is episode 46, then please go back and listen. And if you have, don't forget that we have all of these photos that Angie and I are discussing up on the website, powercompanyclimbing.com, or you can click on the direct link in the podcast description right there on your pocket supercomputers.
Maybe don't know.
A lot of internal dialogue, a lot of internal battles. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess climbing is that, but yeah, competition just takes that whole experience and condenses it down into a really short period of time.
This time, power. This time to build power. This time to build power. This time to build power.
For sure.
And if they do well consistently, people expect them to do well again.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, and I mean, that's just another example of what I think every competitor, youth or adult, deals with is like, the more you do it, the more expectations you have, and the more pressure you put on yourself. And that happens with the youth competitors because they start so young now. They might be in the youth circuit for, from the time that they're 8 until the time that they're 19. Right. Some of them go all the way through from, maybe 10 to 19. That's like a big chunk of their life is being in youth competitions.
Yeah,
so you can see, it
and
makes
a very
sense.
formative part of their life.
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense that they put a lot of pressure on themselves. It's just also like, it's hard to see looking back as, being in a different place. It's hard to see the kids like crying at the competitions and being so hard on themselves. You just want to go up and tell them like, this is not a big deal.
Yeah.
Don't cry. Like, this is not worth it. But I've been there.
Sure.
I've cried at plenty of youth competitions.
Sure.
Plenty of adult competitions even I've cried.
Right.
It's like, it's hard because you do convince yourself that it's really important. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to remember that, even a couple months down the road, you're going to forget about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny. I went to divisionals yesterday, and part of the reason I went was to go watch a girl that I'm going to be working with, and the other was to watch Brooke.
Yeah.
Because I'd talked to Brooke at the World Cup, because I'd climbed with her outside, and I've seen her seemingly have no pressure.
Right.
When she's climbing outside, she's doing little dances and acting silly, and it's so much fun to watch, and she's genuinely in love with what she's doing. And then at the World Cup, there didn't seem to be any pressure either.
Right.
She was able to be that same silly Brooke. And then I went and watched her at divisionals, and maybe it's because I was looking for it. Maybe it's because it's what I wanted to see, but it looked like stress.
Yep.
When she came out for the finals problem, she didn't look like she was the same carefree kid. She definitely looked a little stressed. Yeah. And then after it was over, after her speed round, she was doing little dances.
Yeah, she's like back to her.
Yeah, it was right back to Brooke and hanging out with the other ABC kids. And, and that made me think of, she's got this amazing coach who's also her mom.
Right.
And she's able to deal in that world of pressure, and I think that's one thing that's really important are the youth coaches.
Yeah, for sure. When
I talked to Lily Canavan, she said something that I was a little blown away by. And in fact, I thought she was one of the best people I talked to as far as giving me something actionable that could be carried away and, applied to other people.
I just really try to shift my focus toward the next problem. My youth climbing team at home, I was on until last year. They hired a mental coach that helped us with a lot of strategies to put the past in the past and only think about what you need to do at the moment. Definitely having a routine before every boulder, or even the night before, just getting in the right mindset, doing the same thing helps a lot.
And I think that's huge for a 18, 19-year-old kid to go into an adult comp with that kind of a tool.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, it's just, when you say it that way, it's like they're kids still in these, like a youth event. I mean, they're in a youth event. They're kids.
Right.
And they have a tremendous amount of pressure. I mean, it's easier to perceive that there's a lot of pressure from the outside when you're a kid too.
Right.
You know, like
right.
I said, I think most of it's from yourself, but
Yep.
you haven't really realized the extent of that yet when you're a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You think that everybody's expecting so much of you. It's like, that's so much pressure to put on a kid, So yeah, it's good that they have tools, some of them, and there's more of that happening now with the coaches and, you know, like
Yep.
just people. There's plenty of that happening as well. I mean, it's not all like they're just suffering through it all the time. Like there's plenty of camaraderie. There's so many good things that come out of the youth comps, and more so now with like coaching and teams and
Yep.
just like the friendships that they have. It's amazing. There's so many good things. It's just hard to look at, you know, as an adult. It's hard to see kids cry at a climbing competition and feel like they're just beating themselves up, you know?
Yeah.
But it's great that there are coaches that do give them tools and perspective.
Yep.
I think perspective is really what the kids need the most in those situations.
Yeah, for sure.
They just haven't, you can't blame them. They don't have perspective. They're
Yeah,
kids.
Exactly.
Like, this is their whole world.
No matter how mature they are, they're,
Right.
you know, it's still a very narrow perspective
Yep.
for most of them. And you know, I talked to Sean Bailey, who was the top American male, and he was one of the others that I thought was really impressive when I was talking to him.
Yeah,
because
what he said was cool.
This one, not so much. I'm mainly focused on sport climbing, especially this season and last season. So this one, it just kind of lined up with my training cycles and lined up before Europe. So I just kind of wanted to see where I was at, and there's no pressure because I haven't trained boulders for, 4 months, 5 months. So yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of here to like see how it goes.
And then I got to talk to Tyson Chaney, Sean's coach, and unfortunately the audio with Tyson got really screwed up for some reason. But when I talked to Tyson, I asked him the same questions about Sean, except for, were you nervous for Sean? Were you stressed out watching Sean compete? And surprisingly, Tyson said, not at all, And then he echoed the exact same thing that Sean said, that we weren't really worried about this comp. We've been focused on sport. That's where we're putting our energy.
Yep.
This was just kind of let's see what happens. Let's see what it's all about, And so I could tell that there was that connection there, that Tyson and Sean had obviously talked about this.
Yep.
It's something that came up. And, I think that's important that there are coaches out there like Tyson and like Lily Canavan's coach and like Robin talking to Brooke about keeping the pressure off going into these big events.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it's such a great example of, not that Sean wouldn't have done really well, even if he was, focusing on this competition. Like, I'm sure he still would have climbed incredibly well. But it does go to show that, like, a lot of times you do really, really well when there isn't pressure like that,
And when you're having fun,
Yeah, you're just...
the expectations
you're just there,
aren't burying you.
As, this is something that's happening along the way to this other goal. And sometimes that's when you do your best, is when you're able to take that pressure off in one way or another. It sounds like for Sean, there just wasn't pressure. And he climbed incredibly well. And maybe that had something to do with it,
Yeah, and it's not that he didn't care about his climbing. I don't think that's...
No, there's photos. Like, you can tell he cares. When he fell, he was...
Yeah, I'm looking for that.
Psyched. Like,
looking for that photo right now of Sean coming off the wall, and you can see. I mean, he just came off the wall a split second earlier, and you can see that he's upset that he's falling.
Yep.
But he didn't carry that through. Even the position of his hands as he's coming off the wall, he's like, what did I just do? I can't believe that I just screwed that up.
I know.
So
and I mean,
these kids care a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that is important. It's not like, I would never say that you shouldn't care about this stuff. I mean, look at my life. My life has been this. I've cared a lot about this stuff, and I think that's important. It's just and you have to have that passion and that caring about what you're doing. Like, you're climbing up a wall on plastic grips, but you do have to care a lot about it to put that much energy into doing it all the time. And I think that's awesome. And I think it's even more awesome when you can care about it so much and still keep the perspective of all the other things that you care about too.
Yeah.
And you know, like just how you deal with it is more important than how you do. You know, how you deal with the outcome, I think, is more important than the outcome itself. And that's something I'm still learning. You know,
Yep.
even as an adult, it's hard to learn how to deal with the failure or how to deal with the success, even. You
Yep.
know, to keep it all in perspective. Like,
Yep, and I
yeah, I'm
think-
doing well now, but there's going to be times when I don't. Or I'm not doing well now, and there's
Yep.
going to be times when I do.
Yep.
And
I think
it's
that
a roller
that
coaster.
caring is a really important part of it. You know, I read a book not too long ago called Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance by Angela Duckworth. And that she defines grit or mental toughness as passion and perseverance. She
Yeah.
doesn't believe that you can be truly mentally tough if you don't truly care about what it is you're doing.
right.
You know, you can go through the motions of something all day long, but to really be mentally tough and push yourself, you have to really care about
Yep.
it.
Yep.
And I think those kids have that for sure.
Oh,
They
yeah.
love it.
Yep.
They're able to, you know, let the expectations roll off their back if they're even
Yeah.
there. So,
Yeah, that's going to take them far. I think
Yep,
the ones that can
for
do
sure.
that, that's a huge skill to learn. And I mean, obviously it's all of this applies outside of climbing as well, but just to like let that stuff roll off your back and move forward with it is really important.
yeah.
And I mean, and that's another thing. Climbing teaches these kids all these things in the context of a competition, which is cool.
Oh, yeah, it's
You know,
huge.
it's like to put that pressure on a kid and then teach them how to deal with it. There are so many positive things about that.
Yep.
As long as, you know, they learn the skills to deal with that.
Yep, for sure.
As long as it doesn't crush them
Yeah, I think
as a young child, you know?
that's one of the coolest things about climbing, and it certainly happens in the comps as well. Maybe in a, you know, a more intense sort of way that you get these great life lessons.
Yeah.
You know, as an experienced competitor who's traveled to compete, where do you feel the most pressure? Because like you said, that, you know, that event at, you know, Battle in the Bubble, I think it was,
Yeah.
when you did so well, that was on home soil.
Right.
You know, that was right here in front of your home crowd.
Yeah.
Do you feel more pressure away from home or less pressure?
That's hard because when you travel, I mean, I think Puccio kind of addressed this, but when you travel, it's like there's a bigger investment.
I think traveling, you have to use a lot of your own money, and so then it becomes more stressful. I think it depends what country. I don't like flying, but I love seeing new places. So I think there's good and bad things.
Right.
Financially and just time wise, you just feel like, oh my gosh, I came all this way. I really want to do well. So there's that pressure. I think though, I just put more importance on the home competitions. Like
Right.
for me personally, they're more important just because I really enjoy the fact that it's a hometown crowd. You know,
Yeah.
like I love that. I really love when I feel like the crowd is in it with me, which they always are on some level, but it's cool when people know you and they're people that you climb with every day. Then there's like a new level of support that you feel.
Yep.
So I think that there's a special kind of pressure that comes with the hometown.
Yeah, you
the
take
home,
all that,
the home competitions,
all those good parts of it, and turn it into, now I need to do well because
exactly.
I've got all this
Because you like
support.
don't want to let, I don't know, you just feel like you don't want to let these people down. And I think that somebody else said that. Janja, I think.
Well, I like to travel a lot, so yeah, it's super cool to be on different places and try different styles of boulders. Actually, I feel more pressure on the home competition, so yeah, I like it more outside.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I guess that probably like on a sentimental level and emotional level, I would put a little bit more pressure on myself at like a home competition. But logistically and financially, there's definitely a different kind of pressure when you go pretty far away for a competition.
Yeah.
You feel like you need to like make the most of it.
Are there particular competitions that you did often that you felt more at home at, and then in turn put more
right.
pressure on yourself?
A little bit, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
like there's some competitions. I used to do the dark horse competitions all the time, and
Yeah.
I felt like I kind of had, felt kind of at home at those after doing them for a couple of years.
Right.
Definitely put some pressure on myself.
Yep.
As the years went by with those competitions. Aside from that, I mean, I guess most of what I've done, I have traveled a fair amount for competing, but I've done a lot of competitions in Colorado because nationals were in Colorado for a lot of years too. So
yeah, and you haven't done the World Cup circuit at all.
I've never done the whole circuit. Now I went over to Europe and did a couple comps one year.
How did that feel?
Oh man, so different. It felt so different. I did feel that weird pressure of, gosh, I just invested a lot
There's
in this.
a lot of money involved.
Yeah.
You know, and we saw that with Alex having to crowdfund her competing.
Exactly.
You know,
and then feeling like, oh my gosh.
and then getting injured.
Right.
And, you know, so I imagine that pressure is tough.
I think
when there's
that's
that much money
it's
put
real
behind
for
it.
sure. Yeah, that's like a real pressure. But I also, I don't know. I just felt like I was complete nobody, unknown person when I was over there too, which has a certain amount of freedom comes with that when there aren't these attached, perceived expectations from the crowd,
Right.
which can be freeing for sure.
Yeah.
You also lose that feeling of connection to the crowd too, that personal connection,
Sure,
when
sure.
you go somewhere where you feel like you're a nobody. It's like, it has its pros and cons.
Yep. Yeah, there's the
for
photo that you have of Alex. And this might be my favorite. I don't know. I really like the one of Alex sitting in the chair, very intense as well.
Right.
But I really like the one of her, she's cut off. She's standing behind the wall and you can only see half of her.
Yep.
And it almost looks like this, like she's made peace with something.
Yep, I agree.
That's the feeling I get from it. That what she said to me when we talked was very genuine. That's how it feels in that photo, that she's happy to be here. She's healthy. She's making peace with these things that have happened to her World Cup bids in the past.
Yeah. I think I felt that too. And just from that comment that she made too, it's it was really cool to see. I agree. I think she did come to some kind of different level of contentment or of acceptance, and didn't seem, she just seemed more accepting of it all. Yeah. And definitely more at peace. And that photo, I like that photo too, because she does seem kind of like she's just released some amount of pressure or something, just brushed it off, okay, here I am, everything that's happened up to here, it's behind me.
Yep, can't change it.
Can't change it.
It is what it is.
Accept it.
Accept it and move on.
Yeah, I think she did that this year, which was really cool to see.
Yeah, I think so. How about we take a quick break and regroup and get back at it?
Yep.
Hey everybody, Chris here. I'll try to keep this short and sweet. Since this thing became officially official, I've basically been obsessed. I've got dozens of episodes waiting to go out, and I'm constantly recording new conversations. I want to continue putting this level of energy into it, and you all can help. We've created a page at patreon.com/powercompanypodcast where you can help support what we're building. In return, even for as little as $1 per month, you'll get access to the brand new We Scream Like Eagles podcast, which includes tips from our guests, extra conversations about hot topics, and Q&As with your questions posed to our guests. If you think it's worth more than $1 a month, we've got other rewards available on top of the bonus episodes, like stickers, ebooks, t-shirts, and training plans. So if you've been considering pitching in, now's the time. That's patreon.com/powercompanypodcast. Thanks a ton, and back to the show. Question for you. This is something I, have thought a little about. The kids, like we mentioned, have sort of a narrow perspective of what pressure even means. As an adult yourself who's dealt with things that are far more stressful than a climbing comp, even if it's a World Cup, how easy was it for you to start putting that into perspective when you came back to competing after you had gotten injured and you took the break? You came back, you seemed like, and I'm envisioning that photo of you at the top, so stoked.
Smiling.
And you were able to find that happiness in it again.
Yeah.
How much of that had to do with perspective on what pressure really actually means?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with that perspective. I mean, so much of it, first of all, just had to do with appreciating climbing, which I had never done before as much as I did then.
I remember having that conversation with you years ago.
Yeah,
that you were finding the joy in it.
Climb again. And that was amazing because I had been through this, just annoying ankle injury, and just to be able to move again was amazing. And then to be able to climb and compete and feel like I was climbing well again, like it was just I was so happy. And at that, I think that photo that you're talking about is from the Battle in the Bubble, and I was just couldn't stop smiling because it was the first comp I had done after I had the surgery on my ankle, and I was just so excited.
You were Alex Waterhouse.
I really was. It's like one of those few, that doesn't happen to me a ton, especially after so many years. It just doesn't happen that often where you can tap into that. And yeah, but when you can, it's amazing. And I think a lot of that was from just a new perspective. I had a completely new perspective on climbing, on my health, like the health of my body. And yeah, I had a perspective, like I had been through something that was hard for me, which was just dealing with an injury that a lot of climbers deal with. But it was the first time I'd really had to deal with that. So like I did have a new perspective on, well, this competition, it's a competition, but at least I'm climbing.
Right.
Like at least once it's over, I'm going to go and do more climbing. And, I think that is a big part of that joy that I felt at that time.
Yeah. And Megan Martin said something similar when I asked her about what's the difference between American Ninja Warrior and this World Cup pressure-wise.
I feel like normally I put pressure on myself, but I've had a lot of stressful things to deal with lately, so I'm actually more excited about this one.
This is small potatoes?
Well, it's not even that it's small potatoes, like it's still a big thing, but I'm just excited to climb and have fun, so I'm not that stressed today, so I'm excited.
Oh, that's good. She mentioned to me that she'd had a stressful week, and then I asked her about, well, what's the difference between Ninja Warrior and this? And she's like,
See, I feel like American Ninja Warrior is very stressful, and since I just got done doing some of that, like, I feel like this is just gonna be more fun. I mean, it's on TV, like, I feel like there's always expectations for things, but for that one, I feel like there's a lot of expectations, so I just...
Yeah, like the world's watching.
Yeah, and so it makes me really nervous, and I feel like since I'm done with that, I'm like, oh, yay, just climbing, and, like, I have 5 minutes to figure out, or 4 minutes, I can't even remember, to figure out my boulders. I don't have to, like, be perfect on everything right away, so I don't know, it feels more chill.
Yeah, and I think that came through in her performance too, because it was like the best that she'd climbed in a World Cup before in her qualifier round, and I think that was a huge part of it, was just that she wasn't putting a lot of pressure on herself at all.
She was having
really
fun.
just wanted to do the best she could do, and she did.
Yep.
And it was cool.
Yeah, that was really fun to see.
Because I know how much pressure she feels from the Ninja Warrior stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you get one try.
Exactly.
It is crazy.
Yep.
You really just get like one try. It's like if you had to walk out to a boulder problem and you get one try.
Yeah. So I think
that would suck.
That 4 minutes that she has to complete a boulder problem probably feels like she gets all this bonus.
Yeah, like
time,
bonus tries. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is some, I'm sure that helps. There's something to that. Having some other kind of pressure that feels like it's more, like whatever it is. And then, being able to put the pressure in perspective, so to speak.
Right.
The pressure of the event is just, maybe it's not as great as some other pressure that you feel in life.
Yeah.
And once you can put that into perspective, that is helpful.
What do you think someone like Shauna, who's, this is she's the champ. Like she's coming at these things having dominated the last few years. And I know this sort of feeling, but how do you think someone like Shauna actually deals with that pressure? When I talked to Shauna, it was a very pro answer. I think she she's had to answer this before. In fact, the first thing she said to me was, a lot of people ask me about pressure. And
people ask me a lot about pressure and how I deal with it. And I think that the main thing for me has always been the experience and doing competitions and just trying out different solutions. But there's no real method. There's no solution to how to deal with pressure, I don't think. There's no like one formula fits all. And as I like develop and grow as an athlete and as a climber and a competition climber, I think that's part of that development and growth. I'm very much like what's next type of person. I'm always thinking about what's coming. So it's not a case of like thinking of times where I failed and succeeded. It's like, okay, like I'll take what went well, but I don't really remember times that I don't do well. I don't know, maybe my memory is just bad.
That's a good thing.
I think I'm always like, what's next? So if I'm out on a boulder and I've had 5 minutes and it's been hard, it's like, okay, that's done, what's next? Like there's no like, oh my god, I should have done that, like what I need to do the next one. It's like, oh okay, that's done, like blocked up and on to the next one.
And not that I don't think she was being genuine, because I do. I think she was being genuine, but I think that all that success sort of skews your idea of how that pressure feels, and maybe you don't feel it a ton until there's failure.
Right. Yeah, I think that could be true. When you're doing well and when you're handling the pressure well, it doesn't feel like it's that much, maybe.
Right.
Like I remember a time when I won some comps consecutively back in the day. And for a moment, I didn't feel as much pressure.
Right.
I just had confidence. I just had confidence that, I definitely remember going into competitions when I was like 20, maybe 19 or 20 when I first moved to Colorado. And I had so much confidence that I was going to win, that I was capable of winning.
Right.
That it was a different feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was pressure, but I don't know how to describe how it was different, but it definitely was. Maybe I just had, more momentum from the winning, and that gave me the confidence, and then the confidence overrides the pressure.
Yep.
You feel the confidence more than you feel the pressure, maybe.
Yeah. How old were you when this was happening?
I think I was like 19 or 20.
Okay.
Yeah. Between 19 and 21 is when I won a couple. There were 3 nationals in a year, and there was a PCA comp, and it was before Puccio started competing.
Right.
It was before she started her dominance. But I do remember at first, when I first started winning, I did feel just confidence, and I didn't feel a lot of pressure, but it quickly caught up to me.
Right.
And then I just went into this pretty dark place, feeling like if I did anything less than winning, it was a failure.
Yep.
And that's so I kind of swung to the other extreme, of having still having some confidence, but really starting to feel like, oh my gosh, wait, I've been winning a lot. What happens when I don't?
Yeah. And it might be dangerous. I think that confidence is important to be able to carry through, but the first time you lose it and you no longer have that confidence, you're in a really dangerous position, because then anytime you win, it just puts more pressure on you the next time to win, because you're like, I can't lose this confidence I've got going.
Exactly.
It's just going to screw things up. And when I talked to Megan Mascarenas, she said that
last year I felt a lot of pressure because I won 2 years ago, and then I didn't want people to think oh, maybe it was just a fluke or something. So last year I felt a lot of pressure, but this year I'm more just here to have fun, see some new climbs.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And that's kind of what I felt on in a condensed timeline when I was 19 or 20 or whatever it was, and won maybe 3 comps in a row or something, and then started kind of feeling that way, I don't want people to think that I can't win, that was just a little streak that I had and I can't do it anymore or something. And
right.
Yeah, definitely putting that pressure. And then it starts to get kind of dark, I think. Yeah. For me, it started to get kind of dark when I started feeling that way.
I think that's interesting in a sport like climbing, because it's not like you can accidentally send a hard boulder problem.
Right.
You either can or you can't. There aren't really any flukes in climbing. So to have a strong competitor like Megan or like yourself refer to it that way, like maybe it was, it wasn't real.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know, maybe it just shows that there's like, I don't know, it's weird, like that there was a serious like crack in my confidence that sort of started to widen or something, you know? Because I do feel like, I don't know, I've maybe gosh, this is going to sound really depressing, but maybe since then I've been trying to find that confidence again, like that kind of confidence, whatever it was that I had when I was 19. Like,
do you find it outside at all?
I don't feel like I've found it again. A little bit more outside, but not as it's like not as concentrated. The feeling isn't as concentrated.
Sure.
I guess when I know, I mean, there's plenty of times I try a boulder problem outside and I know I can do it. And I have that kind of confidence. Like, I know I can do this boulder problem. It's just a matter of time. So in that way, I do have that, you know, just 100% confidence. Like, I can do this. I know I'll do this eventually.
Yep.
It's different than the competition.
You don't get that
variety.
in a 4-minute window.
Yeah, it's definitely different. You know, it's like stretching that out over the course of years potentially while you're projecting something.
Yeah.
As opposed to walking into a competition that is a short period of time and just having that utter confidence that you can win, you know?
Yeah.
It's such a weird, I don't know, but I do feel like I had something different when I was that age. Maybe it's just that I didn't have the expectations. It could have been that.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've seen with the youth competitors that's
a real thing.
That's a major thing.
It was a real thing.
Shauna said something interesting when we talked that, you know, I asked her if there was a time when she thinks back on a time when she has failed on a problem and then is able to pull it back together. Like, does she refer back to that moment when I got it back together at this comp, I can do it again? And her response was, I don't even remember my failures. Like, I don't think about them at all. And she was almost upset with me for even asking. And she's like, you know, like, God, I don't even remember failing.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, and I wonder if that can even be true, or if it's, again, back to that, I'm really successful right now, so that's not entering into my brain.
Right, like you don't even want to let it enter into your brain.
Like,
or maybe that's the strategy
failures,
is to like not let it enter into your brain.
Right, like there are definitely failures within those successes. You know,
for
she
sure.
doesn't, in this comp, she didn't top problem number 1.
Right.
You know, and
well,
then
you
in
never
finals.
like flat, you know, nobody flashed every single problem. So
Right.
like everybody's had their failures.
Right, exactly. But not remembering those failures. And maybe, you know, we're having these quick conversations. I'm just ambushing people. So maybe when I said failure, that meant to her this catastrophic, you know,
breakdown in life or something.
Right. But I think it's interesting that she doesn't think about failures at all. Even using them as motivation. And then she's, you know, dominating the circuit right now.
I mean, maybe there's something to it then. I don't know. I definitely can't relate to that. I can't relate to that feeling of
I can't either.
Of not thinking of my failures. I guess maybe when I was 19 or 20, I was more that way, like because I hadn't really had as many to think about, especially like in that particular moment, you know, like in that year or whatever. It was like, well, they're really. Yeah, I can't think of any because I've just been succeeding,
Just
you know? It's
everything.
like, and it does, you get this momentum going, and that's what I think you do feel that way on some level. Like, no, it's all good. It's all positive. I don't remember the negative. It just rolls right off my back until like, I definitely remember a distinct moment at a spot comp. And I had been, you know, mostly just doing boulder problems in these competitions and just with this confidence of like, I can do this boulder problem and then I will do it.
Right.
And I couldn't do the 4th problem in finals. And the crowd was totally behind me and they were so psyched and they were cheering me on. And
right. Everything
I just
was in your favor. And
I remember looking out at the crowd and just thinking to myself, I just can't do it, you guys. Like, sorry, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And feeling really like frustrated about like, no matter how hard you scream and no matter how hard I try, I'm not doing it. I don't know. I'm just not doing it. And that was one of those moments of like, that I remember, like a moment of failure that I to this day remember that frustration
Sure.
of just like, oh, wait, it's not always going to be like this feeling of I'll walk up to the problem and know that I can do it and then do it, you know?
Yeah.
It's just not always going to be that way.
It's funny, I just realized that I cut both of these episodes at a spot where Angie and I are talking about our own failures. Is that a coincidence? I don't know, but I think failure and pressure are both important parts of this big process. There's one more part coming. If you've got the time, go listen now. If you don't, be sure to listen later. And definitely go to powercompanyclimbing.com. You can click on the direct link right there in your podcast app in the description and check out Angie's photos. You know, we're going to be talking a lot in this next episode about some of her photos that really depict true pressure, even in the seemingly unflappable competitors like Shauna Coxsey, and including a photo series that is really incredible of Russian competitor Alexei Rubtsov. It's almost heartbreaking to look at. We also talk with Jan Hojer and explore how, you know, this super nice guy, master competitor, can seemingly contradict himself in back-to-back sentences when it comes to discussing pressure, that maybe he doesn't even realize how much pressure he's putting on himself. And we ask all of these competitors, really successful comp climbers, what's the secret? And don't forget, share us with your friends, tell your mom, tell your grandma, tell everybody. You can find us on the Facebook, you can find us on the Instagram, the Pinterest, no Twitters. We don't tweet, we scream like eagles.
Cause Ja is the sinister character.